Shalom to all my awesome viewers and listeners. Today's show is episode 1 of my new series called Something for Shabbos, where the plan is that each week my guests and I will schmooze about the upcoming Shabbat Parasha and anything else that comes to mind. This show is proudly brought to you in association with Dream Digital Art, the place to get fantastic, cool Jewish and Israel-related art pieces and products. Hope you enjoy. Thanks so much for dropping by. 𝗦𝗢𝗍𝗓. So you grew up together, basically?
We grew up together. Yeah. Much.
Was there a co-influence on ending up where you've ended up as well? In Ramot, in Israel, like Aliyah? Was it just independent? It was just on the cards?
No, yeah, definite. I think we've spoken about the rabbi of the shul.
Yeah. Yeah. Who's named after Rav Kook?
Rav Kook. Yeah,
that's right.
So,
right.
We drink from the same well.
So you grew up Shomer Shabbos?
Yeah. Yep. I grew up Shomer Shabbos. My parents are both Bali Tshuva. And we're like just becoming seriously Shomer Shabbos as they were getting into their married life, and then just became more observant.
Right, just took it from there.
Totally grew up Shomer Shabbos.
Wow, excellent. And then you ended up here. I don't want to do a whole history thing, but it's great that we got that in because it's nice. You know, it's like you come from the same place. So this particular podcast, Something for Shabbos, that's what I've called it.
Mm-hmm.
Called it because I feel like just here in Ramot, where we all live, we have so many extraordinary, talented people who have got a lot of amazing things to say. For me, as like a 𝗦𝗢𝗏 𝗙𝗏, I'm like, it is a bit of a candy store.
Mm.
That's how I feel a lot of the time. And everyone's got their different things. And so I may see nuances that other people don't see. But I wanted to kind of, not just from people in Ramot, but starting with people in Ramot, people that I love, people that I love to listen to. And so I figured, let's try this. Something for Shabbos, and to give us something to think about for the Shabbos coming. We record this. The idea is to record it early in the week. We're now on a Monday following that Saturday night, Sunday, which we'll get to in the end. For just to timestamp this is the Monday after Iran's thing, huge missile attack, which on Saturday night, the 14th of April, 6th of Nisan, just checked it before, into the 7th, or I think it was the 6th. And so this is 2 days later. So we'll probably touch on that at some point in the end, or at some point in this, because how can we not? You can't just, skip that over in this coming week as we approach this new Shabbat. So I guess the first thing is the Parasha is Metzora, and I thought for those people that maybe not aware of what the Parasha is about, so in the Chabad Chumash, they do this. Have you seen this? They probably have it in a lot of Chumashim, but they have like a short summary. I'm not sure if the Rebbe wrote this, but he was definitely involved. So I thought I'd read it to frame the Parasha, and then one of you can maybe take the helm of something. It's a strange Parasha. Like it's like rituals, and it's like purity and impurities, and this is not something that's easily to relate to. So I'm fascinated to see and to hear what you guys are going to come up with. So it says this: the previous Parasha, 𝗦𝗢𝗏, describes the onset and identification of the supernatural disease 𝗦𝗢𝗏. Our Parasha, by contrast, details the process by which the 𝗦𝗢𝗏 sufferer rids himself of the affliction to become ritually pure. Thus, it is somewhat surprising that our Parasha is called Metzora, meaning one who is afflicted by 𝗦𝗢𝗏, since our Parasha deals not with the affliction of the condition, but rather its spiritual remedy. If something bad occurs, it can be for one of two reasons. Either A, it's an expression of forces of evil, or B, it is actually an expression of a very intense form of good, but the good was so intense that the world was unable to cope, so the good was misdirected to the forces of evil, which in of itself is a whole conversation. The method of correcting the problem will differ in both cases. A, plain evil needs simply to be eradicated, which is very relevant to what we're dealing with right now in the world. The problem and its solution are thus diametrically opposed. The problem is bad and the solution is good. However, B, if the bad occurrence is in fact a misdirected form of intense good, then the remedy is not through eradication, for there is a tremendous power of good here. Rather, the solution lies in revealing the true nature and source of the problem, how below the surface there is really something very good. Last paragraph. Hasidic thought explains that 𝗦𝗏 falls into the latter category, and that, in truth, the affliction belies a tremendously positive spiritual energy. That's from Likutei Torah. Thus, its remedy described in our Parasha is not in fact an eradication of 𝗦𝗏, but rather a revelation of the good inner nature of the affliction. Consequently, our Parasha, which describes the cure for the disease, is called by the very name of the disease, Metzora, to hint to the fact that the remedy for this problem is through revealing the true inner nature of the affliction itself. That is based on a sikha of the Rabbi in the year 5751. That's the intro. That's what I got, apart from reading through the Parsha.
Okay, so to summarize, just to make sure I got it.
Yeah.
The question, it was a direct question. There's a lot of information in Parshas Metzora that seems esoteric or supernatural.
Yeah.
That is supernatural.
Except it's very physical, because there's loads of physical things.
It manifests in afflictions of the skin, clothing, and home. Like stuff appearing on a person's body or clothing or on the walls of their house. Mm-hmm. And the question was, if there's two sort of twin parshios, 𝗦𝗢𝗓 and Metzora. 𝗦𝗢𝗓 is about how do you fall into this mess, and Metzora is like how do you get out of it. You would think that Metzora would be not a great name for a parsha that's trying to deal with how do you remedy the 𝗦𝗏, right? Metzora comes from the language of 𝗦𝗏. So the answer seems to be that if you think that 𝗦𝗏 is just a force of evil, so then the question is a good question. If 𝗦𝗏 is just evil, then don't call the parsha that deals with remedying it, getting rid of it, basically 𝗦𝗏. Don't call the parsha 𝗦𝗏, Metzora.
Yeah.
But if you understand that really 𝗦𝗏 is actually a very powerful force of good that maybe is being received in the wrong way, right? I think that's his...
Yeah, I think so.
The Rabbi is alluding to this idea that you find in the
Something's
Zohar and
under the
earlier
surface.
things, that there's 𝗦𝗏 happens when there is an attempt at giving some very strong light or medicine or something like that, and the vessel that's trying to receive it, the person, the home, that's trying to receive it has not done the work to be able to receive it, and it comes out in a way which is broken. But the idea itself is like, right? So there's the Torah last week's parsha from the 𝗦𝗢𝗓, I think, maybe the 𝗦𝗓𝗏, one of the two Me'ors, 𝗦𝗢𝗓 and 𝗦𝗓𝗏, that the three names for 𝗦𝗏 are 𝗦𝗢𝗓, 𝗦𝗏𝗏, and 𝗦𝗢𝗓.
The three different
There's three different types of 𝗦𝗏.
Right.
𝗦𝗢𝗓, 𝗦𝗏𝗏, the common denominator between the three of them is that 𝗦𝗢𝗓, 𝗦𝗏𝗏, these words mean exalted and crystal clear, like 𝗦𝗢𝗓, right? There's like something very big and very wonderful coming down, but because the vessel is just not ready for it, it creates a shattering of sorts, or it creates this blotch on the home, on the clothing. So once you understand that 𝗦𝗏 is actually not evil per se, it's manifesting as something definitely not comfortable and not something you want per se, but it's happening because there's this great thing that's coming down, and then it's not coming down in the right way. So I think that's what he's saying. So then it makes sense to call the parsha Metzora, because in some bizarre sort of way, you actually want whatever 𝗦𝗏 is, you want that energy. You just want to be able to catch it and contain it in a way that's going to be healthy. Right? I think that's like... And
the Metzora is the person with 𝗦𝗏. That's the
Metzora is the person with 𝗦𝗏.
How does that fit into like speaking Lashon Hara and getting tzaraas. Where does that interpretation of like something great coming down and then you have tzaraas? That doesn't sound like Lashon Hara tzaraas at all.
Yeah, so you can get tzaraas for like 7 things. The Gemara has like, it's very famously Lashon Hara, but you can get tzaraas for like a whole host of different things. But it's still, the question is a good question. Like what?
Was it mostly Lashon Hara, or was it just one of the 7?
Lashon Hara is like has a number of different, right? Like the word Metzora is understood by the sages to mean motzi ra. You've exuded ra. You've allowed ra to emanate from it. Yeah, you've emitted ra. Ra has emerged from your mouth. So there's like definitely a link between tzaraas and Lashon Hara. It's very strong. It's been made very popular by the work 𝗦𝗢𝗏 and shmooze halashon. But there are other things. But it's still, the question is still a good question. Like, what's the relationship between tzaraas and having done some negative action that makes you worthy of receiving this thing?
Yeah, I don't know. I heard of Waxman say today on an old recording. He said that, I don't know who he quoted, but he said that the reason is, it's a funny thing, the reason Hashem gave the Torah to 𝗦𝗢𝗏 is because our mouths are so holy, and we need something to talk about. And if Hashem didn't give us something to talk about, then our mouths would just go to unholy places. So he needed to give us something to fill our holy mouths with. So it's not like the Torah is so holy, so we should learn it. It's our mouths are so holy, so we need to speak about something.
It's the other way around, sort of thing.
Yeah, I was like blown away by,
Right.
and maybe that's could fit in that way. Like Hashem is telling you, your mouth is holier than ever.
In its natural state.
Well, maybe even more so now. If you're getting tzaraas after the fact that something bad came out of your mouth, it's like a sign that Hashem wanted you to use your mouth for something very, very beautiful and holy, and you chose to use it in the wrong way. So then tzaraas came out and manifested.
Like an identification, like you said, because really, if you didn't mistreat it, it wouldn't be happening, because you'd be in your natural state, and you wouldn't need it. I guess that you could say that's the story of the whole history of the world. This whole 6,000 year story so far is because of an error, a chosen error, and this is the consequence. And I guess my understanding is that we're fixing it all up. And so what often appears, I know the Ramchal speaks about this a lot in 𝗬𝗏 just because I've been in that headspace of last 6 months or before, is that, not everything seen is not what it's meant to be, but like we're going somewhere. We're on a definite journey to fix up something, and that's why everything looks so rough. And it's just, that's what life has become, until one day it won't be. That's how I see it, and that's how I understand redemption to be, is like, you get to return to the place of where you don't need any of this stuff anymore. You've worked it through, and now we're back. But it's rough, as we just experienced the other day. At the sharpest end of it, I think that was by far the most bizarre, surreal, but real experience of my entire life, when we were waiting for those missiles, and when they came, it was just weird. I think, how was it for you?
Yeah, we were talking a little bit about it before the show started. It was weird. It was scary. It started by like, okay, bring it on,
This was
my experience
right.
of it. I did not think it was going to happen. I mean, they call bluffs all the time, like every single speech that.
Really? You thought it wasn't going to. I thought for sure.
I didn't. I thought there was no way.
Wow.
There's just. I mean, it's like the boy who cried wolf. Like Do you guys know that story?
Yeah, I know this.
I mean, 𝗦𝗢𝗬𝗓 𝗦𝗔𝗍𝗪, like every day is like, we're gonna get them, you know?
Right.
And then they lie and they lie and they lie. And then it was like really happening.
Right.
And then it started really small. And I'm like 20 drones, like we got that. Like we've been training for this for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just kept growing and growing and growing and growing and growing. And I was still super confident, like we got this. But it was with a hyperventilating more. Yeah.
That's how you
I
experienced it.
said to my wife at one point, I'm like, I like felt the blood draining from my face.
Wow.
I was confident, like we got this, but it's like, it's happening.
Mm.
Like it's really going down.
Mm-hmm. Dovid'l, how did you?
I went to sleep.
Isn't there like a famous Gemara about this? That's the highest level where you.
A famous.
Oh no, that's the lowest level, right? The highest level is actually where you actually go out.
There's a medrash about 4. I think if that's what you're referring to, there's a medrash about 4.
That's right.
Kings.
That's right.
One is like, I can't handle this, I'm going to sleep. Another's like, you know, which I guess is not entirely, you know, I wasn't about to like mount a David sling or whatever they call, you know, like I wasn't about to,
or whatever the newest.
Yeah, so it wasn't like I was going to prepare to go to war. I said 𝗦𝗢𝗫 𝗦𝗔𝗓 and went to sleep.
That's
yeah.
Did you know?
Right.
What did you know before you went to sleep? I'm just curious.
I knew that they launched 100 drones.
And what did you think was going to happen?
I didn't think anything was going to happen.
Like they were just going to disappear?
No, I didn't think they would disappear. I knew that we had good technology for knocking things down. I didn't really know what the difference between a drone and a missile is. Like, I didn't know what that is.
right.
Did you see that?
100 is also, again, I'm not trying to cause trouble. 100, I don't know, is that like a lot? Is that a lot?
I'm not, yeah. I don't know. All I know is there was.
I said to Rena, I said to my wife, you know, I said, I don't know, 100 drones. I feel like if I was, which I would never do, but I feel like if I was standing outside in that, like, you know, like the ravine between Remote and Yerushalayim, like that.
Yeah, the valley.
Yeah, that valley. But then, like, I don't know that 100 drones is enough to like even attack the whole valley. You know, like that. We live in a big country, so I wasn't like, oh, I'm safe and everyone else is gonna be in trouble. It was just like,
so 10,000 would have been a lot.
10,000 probably would have been a lot, I guess.
Oh boy.
You know? But also, you know, what was I going to do about it?
Would you know the size of these drones?
That's where I was.
Meaning, and it's not as if, you know, you mentioned the Gemara about like different levels of, just to finish that, there's like one king who went to sleep, another king who's like, I'll pray and then I'll go to sleep. And then the third one's like, I'll pray and prepare for war, but I can't go out to war. And David HaMelech was like, I'm gonna
go out to war.
Pray and go out to war.
Right.
After
poems.
getting a night, and yeah,
Sing
right.
songs.
With one hand, I'll write a poem while I, you know, and at the end of the day, recognize that it was all God. Right.
Yeah.
That's like
Yeah.
that's like David HaMelech's like, I'll do it all, but also realize I'm not doing anything. Right. So that's like one end of the spectrum. But then there's also like stories of, you know, of like the Brisker Rav, like going to sleep during a Nazi bombardment of like, you know, when he was before he came to 𝗦𝗢𝗓, like just gonna like, he'll get into pajamas and go to sleep and like, because what was he gonna do? Now you could be like really firm about it and say he should stay up all night and say Tehillim or something. There's another side of it, which is like, you know, I'm not controlling the drones with my Tehillim. I could say 𝗦𝗢𝗓 and go to sleep also. I don't know. Like he didn't stay up all night. I don't think the story is like trying to knock him that he went to sleep in his pajamas. I think it was like equanimity, like, you know, let Hashem take care of it. And there's different approaches. I don't know.
There are different approaches. My approach was, I knew it was real. I knew.
What do you mean real?
I knew that it wasn't a lie, because I thought the build-up had been, you know, that we allegedly did something, as if like it was going to be anyone else. This recent assassination. So I'm like, And because of how everything has been shaping up, it's like it felt like the right time. If you're going to do something, it's now, because it looks like Israel and the Jewish people are being weak. And because I try and read everything as part of this progression to the end, because I'm always thinking about the end. Like I'm impatiently waiting for the end. I'm like, Hashem, like, come on, like the world's definitely gonna be better, and I can visualize it, and I want to be there. I want this over and done with. I want this over and done with. Now, at the same time, you're like, yeah, but that's not how things go. It doesn't just get over and done with. I don't know any experience in my life personally where it's just, oh yeah, we're just gonna. Because what's the point of then the previous 5,000 so many years? But I do want the ending. So I did think it was real, and I'm like, this is going to be a...
Sorry for being a stickler. What do you mean real? Going back to real. Like you didn't think
It
it
was
was
really
like
going to happen.
it was going to happen, or it was happening, and you were like, "This is."
It was happening. I thought it was going to be many, and I thought it was going to be challenging, even with all the tech. And I had no idea that allies and friends, so-called, of Israel were going to get involved. I thought it was us only. I was shocked and surprised. And we're all the time, because we've heard so many different things about how Mashiach's going to come, and Esav and Ishmael, and who's going to trump who, and sorry to use the Trump word because it's, but you know what I mean. And you're like, oh, and then you suddenly hear, wow, some of our friends who have in recent weeks and months been against us have helped us. And then you heard Jordan got involved. And you're like, that's why you just can't call Hashem ever. You don't know what's going on. Well, none of us know what's going on. That's one wisdom I hope I've managed to grab in these 47 plus years, is that we haven't got a clue. And you just got to be in the moment. And like you said, I got no control over this. No control. I loaded my weapon. I had all my rounds on me, thinking if there's going to be anything weird going on locally. My wife as well. And I slept with my gun. I slept for like 20 minutes on and off. And then
So I'm interested in that. Like, okay, so you got your weapons ready, what did you pack anything? Were you like, did you have an escape plan? What was let's go into that.
I locked my door.
You locked your door.
Well, again, so I was very nervous until 4 a.m. until I read this.
You were going to just go into the shelter and just sit it out if things went.
I'm not going into that shelter. Our shelter is like a shared.
So what do you do if the alarms start going? Because there was a false alarm at 2:30. It was not Yerushalayim. It was like.
What are you talking about? You're wrong. So you guys didn't see what I saw.
Wait, hold on. I don't know what happened at 2:30. I don't know what time it was, but
it was like 2:30. There was like an alarm.
It was 2:00
that woke me up.
Well, that was not false, bro.
No, not false. I don't mean false. It was not.
You saw it on your window?
Yeah, it was right.
It wasn't remote though.
It was completely Jerusalem.
The alarm wasn't remote. Did
what?
Did you have it on your phone or on the?
I heard the siren, and it was like
you heard the
distant.
town over. You heard the town exactly. Right. You were hearing.
So I don't mean false alarm.
Oh.
That like there wasn't.
Oh,
like,
it wasn't Ramot.
It wasn't. Yeah,
it wasn't alarming you. It wasn't alerting you.
I mean, it was alarming me that there was something in Israel airspace, but it was like the alarm started going off. It was a little distant.
Exactly.
But I wasn't sure, why is it distant? Is it distant because there's a faulty alarm over here or there? Like, I don't know. What do I know? So there's an alarm goes off, and then I heard boom, 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 boom. I heard a lot of shots, which were probably interception of the drone. We woke up, went to the makeshift makom mugan, which has like a metal door and a whole thing. And then the kids were like, we want to go back to sleep. And I'm like, go back to sleep. I'll wake you up if there's like an...
Oh, you woke everyone up and brought them to the place?
So there's an alarm. So
You woke... Wow.
And then I sort of regretted it, but that's hindsight because there was nothing else after that. At least
that's right.
Here,
there was
right?
Correct.
That's true.
Yeah, that's true.
So, but after that happened... So we had a talk, what's the plan? Like, what do you do if there's, because I was like, that was close to remote, but it wasn't in remote. Like, so what's the plan? Is the plan?
Was that the first time?
Just a hunker down,
was that the first time you initiated that conversation? Or had
I mean, the plan in this is not the first time we've had rockets in Yerushalayim. So
no,
when we
but
were home,
the conversation about
usually what
plan.
happens is it's a rocket. It's from Gaza, right? And
Okay.
it's like, for some reason, drones versus rockets. Drones seem like a little bit more serious. I don't know if that's true. So we go to the Makom Mugan and we stay there until the siren goes.
Because they're directable and they've got like cameras.
Drones are a little direct. For whatever reason, you don't want to be outside. You don't want to be in a place where you have children. And, okay, so you stay in your safe place until the siren goes off, and that's it. And because it's happening right next door, you know that the reaction to whatever just occurred is going to be immediate, and it's going to shut down whatever just happened, hopefully. And that's been, right? Like, usually if there's a rocket in Yerushalayim, one in, I don't know, several months, which is too much anyway, there's not another one 10 minutes later usually. It's like, whoever just shot that is no longer in this world, and that's the end of it. This was like, it's coming from far away. It's like so weird, like an 8-hour delay, and the whole thing was like a little bit. So it's like, okay, what do we do if like, more. In 2 hours and then 6 hours? Like, we're going to sit here for 6 hours, and so what's the plan? So your plan was, you're like, okay, maybe there's going to be some action from surrounding.
Yeah, but because I'm in that headspace 24/7 now, so I'm like,
I'm curious about like what
No, but I'll tell you what the difference was. I think because at like 1:40, because of that whole thing of like, okay, everyone, we've launched at Israel, like it's official, and like the news were going crazy, and I'm trying not to look too much on news, but it was known. It was like they've done it. So and then it's like there's a time lag, and they're probably going to launch drones, and they mosey their way over here from Iran, like it's something. It could take 9 hours. I'm like, 9 hours? I'm like, what sort of drones are these? Are they from like the 1940s? I'm like, that's not going to happen. It's not going to be 9 hours. And then of course they start talking about the ballistic and the cruise missiles, and you're like, that takes the temperature up a bit. If you know anything about weaponry, which clearly...
Wait, Dad, did you see that picture of the missile?
It's insane.
On the 𝗦𝗓𝗏?
Yeah.
It's the size of this house. It's two sides of a house.
Did you see how big that thing is?
I mean, I saw a picture of
a
floating piece of metal in the Dead Sea.
It is not a little Hamas.
Right, so that's why I said it's like a little...
It's the size of this entire house.
Yeah.
It's not a joke. The entire house. It's like a whole building.
So again... The goal of being in a safe space is like aftermath of that.
No, I don't think any of our safe spaces, if hit.
So that's what I'm saying.
So how I look at it is that if you get...
they blow it up in the sky, and then there's
No, but the concern is that they don't get it.
Sure,
that was the only concern. So I think I saw something that you didn't see, because at like 1:40, 1:45, when I started to hear... So I went to a vantage point where we live, where there is a view of the Jerusalem Valley, and I'd never seen what I then saw. There was a major activity in the sky, and I'm like, it's all heading towards the Knesset. That's what I saw. I'm like, never seen that.
But was it?
Yeah, it was definitely things popping and flashing in the sky. Yeah, it was. It was
right over the Knesset.
It was right over, and what?
Because it's controlled. Is that the idea?
Say again?
It's a controlled drone, like they were.
No, those weren't drones. Not one drone got into Israeli airspace.
That was I think the shrapnel of the things that were blown up. But when you're in it, you're like, what is that?
Yeah, of course.
What is that? And you're hoping, and then after the fact, we're like, wow. They managed, between Israel and everyone else, and the US and the UK and France and a bit of Jordan, I think, they managed to wipe out this 99% of them. I also read today that they fired so many ballistic missiles that they're almost done with everything that they've got on the ballistic side. So I don't think it was a small thing. We're all like, hey.
I didn't go to sleep because I thought it was a small thing, and I didn't go to sleep because I'm a big tzaddik. Neither of those are true. I went to sleep a combination of like
tired post Shabbos.
A combination of like years of discerning, like, can I do something about this or can't I do something about this? And if the answer is yes, then then why am I not doing it? Let me do it.
Right.
And if I can't, then just put it to the side. And that's like a muscle. You have to work on that muscle.
Yeah.
So I think it's probably something like that, you know, and also not understanding what a ballistic missile is.
It always helps. It always helps to not have knowledge sometimes.
We should start the podcast from here. I think that's
Exactly. I think the control thing is a big deal though. Like when you get to that place in your head, you're like, it's a good place as well. It's very healthy to know that you're not in control. And I think it's underestimated because of course in this generation, everyone's like super like, I've got to know everything. And like, I think part of the faith, 𝗦𝗢𝗖𝗜𝗔𝗟 thing is, I don't have this.
right.
It's not me.
It is tricky though. It's a little tricky, right?
Because you want to do, you want to.
Well, okay, so, and there's good reason, you know, in our education, like,
yeah,
there's Rambams and there's Shulchan Aruchs, like if something bad happens, like 𝗦𝗓 and davening, and fasting.
Exactly.
You know? So that's like on the one hand.
There's reactive forces in Judaism.
So going back to that story I said before, like, you know, the brisker of going to sleep when there's a bombardment of Nazi planes dropping bombs, like one thing to do is let me add things, you know, let me do more, which there's for sure, you know, more tefillos, you know, restraining from physical pleasure and things like that. So 𝗦𝗓 fasting. But then there's also like, let me say 𝗦𝗓 𝗫 like for real tonight.
Right.
Like qualitative, yeah. Like, you know, so if I qualitatively do that, like maybe that's what I'm supposed to do. And because there's like, I don't have control, and if I go to sleep now, like there's a good chance I won't be mean to my wife and children tomorrow because I'll have a nice good sleep, and I won't be mean to the person at the store next to me because I'm going to go shopping tomorrow. So like staying up all night could be the right thing, you know, if you know that like somehow your extra tehillim is gonna, that's a real part of our tradition. Yeah, I feel you looking at me. That's like, you know,
I was refreshing all night.
You were refreshing.
Refresh tehillim, refresh tehillim,
right.
refresh tehillim.
So that's also
I wanted to know.
You didn't sleep.
I went to sleep at 4,
right.
And the only reason I went to sleep at 4 is because I was really tired, and because like I literally couldn't keep my eyes open anymore, and because I read this message from our Rav from Parashat 𝗦𝗓. His wife posted. I saw on my wife's phone. She posted, "Thank you all so much for all of your messages and reaching out. I want you to know that we believe that our God is a God who doesn't sleep, who doesn't slumber. 𝗦𝗢𝗖𝗜𝗔𝗟. And because we believe so well that he doesn't sleep, so I will sleep." And after she said that, I'm like,
time to go to bed.
I can go to sleep. It's time to go to bed. But before that, the only level of control that I felt I had was knowing what was happening and davening with my reaction to what was happening. And I'm like, I will have pizza because I know that 𝗦𝗢𝗍𝗶 is strong and David HaMelech is strong. And I said 𝗦𝗢𝗖𝗜𝗓 Yom Menucha like I've never said it before. And for anyone who doesn't know, it's one of the Zmiros for Motzei Shabbos. And you must, if you've never done it before, to say that with a translation right next to it. It is one of the most beautiful, broken-hearted, joyous Zmiros that have ever been written.
Right.
Right?
8 Dodim, like a time of love awaken on Motzei Shabbos. That's what you're saying. I was saying that over and over again. 8 Dodim ta'orer el.
It's like pure connection time.
Yeah, Dodim. Ani the Dodi v'Dodi li. Shir Shirim. Yeah. We're about to come to it on Pesach, the time of that love. And just like you're the whole thing is like you're people who have been broken and abused and beaten down for so long, like restore our honor. That's like the whole thing. Right. And that's like literally what was happening these things are being shot at us. Like like our honor was taken away from us on October 7th, on the great day of Simchas Torah, on the day that we were supposed to be putting crowns on our heads, dancing with the Torah. And the Jewish people need that honor to be given back to them.
So that resonated with specifically those words. I see that. I see how you could definitely get to.
So that was my.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
I just needed to refresh all night.
How does this tie in with Metzora, with the Parasha? Coming back to the.
Well, I don't know if this is the right thing to do, but what you said about Metzora is called Metzora because something which comes out in a really ugly way is something attempting to be born into the world in a positive way, but if you don't have the right vessels, it comes out kind of ugly. So it's very tempting and obvious to stare down our enemies and say to them, how dare you? It's maybe another step to, and we have to do that, and we've been doing that. It's another thing to say, what, because you alluded to it before, you said something is how we're getting to the end,
what's the message?
Well, maybe, I don't know if it's 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps, 4 steps from the end, whatever it is, but it doesn't have to be a 1-to-1 correlation. If we were prophets, maybe we could be ballistic missiles is the gematria, whatever we're supposed to be doing.
Right.
No, but what individually, we can all look into, also not the place to look and diagnose 𝗦𝗢𝗖𝗍, what does 𝗦𝗢𝗖𝗍 need to do? I don't think any of us sitting in this room want to do that. But the question is if there's something which is still imperfect, so then the natural thing to do is to say, well, there's evil, and so let's stamp it out, which is exactly what the 𝗦𝗢𝗍𝗏 is saying not to do. There's evil, let's stamp out the evil. Now, we might have to stamp out some, there's some defense we have to do, and there's other things, and maybe some offense that we have to do.
Yeah.
But there's a deeper truth, which is there's a flip that needs to happen. There's some switch that we need to flip. So,
and this is the 𝗦𝗢𝗏 is like the siman to tell you, hey, because otherwise, how would we know what Hashem's trying to communicate to us if there weren't these physical manifestations? If everything was just pariv,
right,
nothing happened, then we sort of would have nothing to do.
There's a famous Rashi about how when Am Yisrael moved into Eretz Yisrael the first time, so Hashem sent tsaras to the walls of the homes that they went into, which is oh no. And so the Torah prescribes what you do when you come into a house, or when you, in your own house, you have tsaras on the wall. You got to break down the whatever stones. We have very different houses, but you break down the stones or the area where there's tsaras, and you have to remove it from the house. When they broke down the walls, they realized that there was all this treasure inside of the house. So let's take that a step back. And so it's the same idea we've been talking about the whole time. There's tsaras, behind the tsaras, there's treasure. So what's the treasure? And what's the tsaras? So the tsaras, meaning it's not the actual tsaras, but if the tsaras is anxiety and running for shelter and feeling like the world is closing in on us and looking at, so then there's a treasure that stands behind that. There's something that's behind that. And you could just knock out the tsaras and not look what's behind it, or you have to
dig.
You have to dig and realize that the tsaras is there's something behind there. That's what's behind there.
I personally try to see, like I said before, all these events, especially this one. It was big. It was a sensational event that happened, but it's really, truly no different to getting a cold. It's all the same. We think these big things are bigger than just the ordinary things that happen in our lives. But the truth is that everything that happens to you is just Hashem. Hi. Everything's a tap on the shoulder. I said to my family, because we have a half decent shelter. The reality is, if a ballistic missile directly hits your home, you're dying. It's over. Okay? But if a disease that isn't able to be cured, it's over. If you're stepping into the street in the wrong place at the wrong time, it's over. It's always potentially over. And that's, for me personally, strengthens me in the moment moving forward, because it can always be over. 𝗦𝗦𝗓𝗏. But like, try to live that. And then you end up doing more, because you've got this tremendous motivation behind you to take those moments and to treat them more like preciously. Is that a word? Preciously? But you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. And I think this is just a massive one, because it's like, hey, like I heard Rabbi Grossman, he spoke on some Israeli news channel. Rochelle, my wife, just played it just before you guys came. And he's talking like, I'm Israel. We're not individuals. We're all connected. And this is an example of something where we all experience this together. It's very redemptive. And the whole world was watching. It was like their show on this night. What's going to happen to the Jews in Israel? It was like, it's unmistakable. You know, they were all the countdown, and that whole thing of like, they've launched the drones, they've launched the missiles. They're not going to hit immediately. It's not like 𝗦𝗢𝗏, where it's like you got 15 seconds. It's like, you have time. What are you going to do with your time? Everyone gather around with the popcorn. Park the car. You know, take your position and have a watch. And then it happened, and that's why. But it was a national event. And that's why, to me, it was more unique than anything, because it was so weird. Like, it happened from 1,500 kilometers away, minimally, and coming from different directions simultaneously. And we're like I always say, like, the greatest chesed I think Hashem gives us is the nations who hate us, they can't figure out, chas v'shalom, how just to drop all their own angst against each other and just come together and say, come on, let's just get this done. And then we'll deal with our own stuff. But let's get the thing that we all want done. But they don't. And that's like, to me, that's like another nice tap on the shoulder or a hug to say, I'm with you always. It's just not going to go that way, because this world doesn't work this way. I don't know if you feel any of that.
You know, I when these threats are hovering above our heads, I keep saying the same thing to my wife, which is it's kind of a sad approach, but kind of like we were saying before, like I don't know what Hashem's plan is. Like I could never have called that October 7th was actually going to happen. I did not think that was in the playing cards. No. Like, I don't know what you plan on doing, Hashem, but I'm exactly where I want to be. Mm. Like, I know that I am in Eretz Yisrael, and I know that I'm with my family and my beautiful kids and my wife in Yerushalayim Kodesh. And if you want it to go this way, then yeah, I'm like a part of your story. I'm in the game right now. I'm a part of the story of the Jewish people unfolding. And if that's the way you want it to go, then okay.
I'll go with it.
Yeah, I'll go with it. I kind of say, and then this is kind of, what's it called? Not so nice to say, but if it's going to hit, let us all go as a family, you know, so none of us are left.
Yeah, I thought the same thing.
Are left. Well,
we're together.
Let's do it. Like,
what's that?
Bring it. I don't.
Yeah, no fear, but basically the fear thing. Because
it really melts away the fear. Like, if this is what you want, then okay, you know.
Right.
I'm in Eretz Yisrael, and that just gives me a lot of comfort.
Did you guys have any conversations with people that were not in Israel? Because I was speaking to a few people, and I felt their fear was way more tangible than ours here. That's what I felt. And people that hadn't, again, not to say anything about where I feel like hopefully where I am. But like, if you're not in that space, I said it when we had that 𝗦𝗃𝗧 about 9/11 when I wasn't religious. I see a very different person who I was then to that. I was petrified on 9/11. I was frozen because I had nothing to hold on to. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I remember I sat watching like, what now? Had no thought in my head of like, this is part of a plan, and I believed in Hashem, but in a very like simplistic way. But I was just like, there was a high level anxiety. Whereas this is shocking, everything that's happening, especially at October the 7th, which again, as a community, we all live through, you know, and yet 24 hours before with you in the old city, there's a bizarre contrast as well. That amazing Hoshana Rabbah, happiness, all of us in the old city looking over, and then not 24 hours later, basically that. But the framing, from my personal experience, the framing was the knowledge of Hashem, the acceptance of Hashem, the acceptance of being part of the story, like you said. Nothing I can do about it. Embrace it. Go with it, whatever will be.
I just have to say this beautiful kavanah. I heard a shibur of Tovia again, this Rav from Parashat that I listened to a lot. He said such a gorgeous kavanah for Heseba, for leaning during the Seder. It's usually so uncomfortable and so awkward, and especially if you don't have a chair with an armrest, and you have to like, you're supposed to turn the chair so you're not leaning in the air. So
Did I really do the leaning?
Yeah. So he said, I don't know who I don't think he quoted anyone. So I don't know what the source of this is, but it makes perfect sense with the whole theme of what Pesach is all about. He said you're like leaning into the arms of Hashem. Like literally, like Hashem's here, and you're kind of just like girlfriend, kind of cuddling up,
cozying up.
Yeah, and if you lean with that, with your kos of yain, and you leaning into the arms of Hashem, and He's just holding you, eating your matzah, 𝗦𝗢𝗖𝗓 matzah, you know, just like crunching on your matzah, just like melting into Hashem's arms. It's like a whole new level of a seba if you have that kavanah. Right. And I think that is the highest kavanah you could possibly have. Right. Like, why are we leaning? It's so awkward. Like, the left side, we don't choke. Like, we're kind of like malchus, kings lean, but like, it's all great. But I think the highest kavanah that could possibly be is just like at a movie, leaning
in the love seat.
Yeah, just leaning into Hashem's arms and Him holding you.
Right.
Like if you can lean into Hashem's arms and feel like He's holding you. It's a Torah that Dovid'l and I like to share a lot. The Rabbi Shlomo says that like that the Zohar, I don't know where in the Zohar it says this, but like the holiness of giving someone a hug is you put their hands on their back. And like you're showing someone you love them, like maybe put your hands on their heart, maybe touch their face, you know, put your hands on their brain. I don't know, but like their back. He says, like, the holiness of hugging is that you're telling the person you're hugging, like, I'm going to hold you up.
Wow.
And you're making, like, a circle. It's like the rest of his Torah. Like, you're making a circle together. And a circle is the samech and somech Hashem, l'chol hanoflim, that Hashem is holding you up. Wow. And you're holding your person who you're holding up.
And you become one.
Yeah.
Very nice. What have you got on Metzora? Anything?
Metzora. My head's more in Shabbos HaGadol.
Okay.
Well, it's just Metzora. The tikkun for Metzora is going and being alone. Right? You get sent away. Like, what do you do during that time? How long did you go? How long did you go away for? For a week? 12 days?
7 days at first, and then
see what happens.
Yeah, see what happens, and then until it goes away.
So, like, what do you bring? Like, what do you do? It's not much like he'd to do it, just like personal self prayer and like.
It's kind of like the biblical COVID.
Yeah.
We just.
Yeah. Are you outdoors? Are you indoors? Do you have your own tent?
I mean, in 𝗦𝗢𝗓 Metzora, the Jewish people are in the desert, and you're being sent out of the camp. You're not
Do you pack a tent with you? Like a little like backpack?
It's not explicitly say that you do.
So you're under the stars.
Maybe.
Oh, you're alone.
Stargazing for.
There's no prohibition.
In the desert. In the desert.
Gorgeous.
There's no
Amazing.
no prohibition of bringing a tent, I don't think.
I would like, right. Like, what are you broken for 7 days? Like crying, like, how could I? Like, it's probably a very special time,
Yeah.
𝗦𝗢𝗓.
Maybe that's the point.
That's for sure the point. Like now, if we go on that Torah that you were saying before by the Rebbe, like recognizing that, okay, whoa, like Hashem wanted to give something great to me. Like, what did I miss here?
That's nice.
You know, like, where did I go off? And like, what does he want to give me?
And you're being sent away by a Kohen, right? And
With
not
so much
Aaron
love.
a Kohen. And you're being sent away by Aaron a Kohen, who's like, you dropped the ball, but in a very sweet way. Like, and it's not like you dropped the ball and now the ball's gone. It's like you dropped the ball and there'll be another chance to catch the ball, but like you need to spend some time figuring out how the next and why you're going because you need to fix this, because of course there's gonna be another ball and I want you to catch it this time. So it's like you're being sent away with that love of only a Kohen can. You go to a dermatologist and they're like, yep, it has all the signs of tzaraas. It's not tzaraas, meaning it has to be a Kohen. He sees it.
The deeper.
He sees you, he sees it. And he's like, something almost entered your life, but it didn't. You got to go off to the side because it'll come back around again. And next time you'll be ready. That's the...
It's interesting that none of these scenarios are terminal. You never hear of any of the...
No, it's not terminal.
Dying from tzaraas, right?
Right, but there is destroying a house, 𝗦𝗔𝗓. At one point, depending on
more part of it, but yeah, there's a destructive element.
There is a destructive element where you got to you're depleted.
And this is not. I mean, it's nice that you're being sent away with like a care package of love, but I'm not sure it's like a camping trip for 7 days. It's like
it's a thinking trip.
Yeah, and you're away from all people and people that you love and society and
you're shaving everything off
at the end. That's a whole thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's not super comfortable.
You think it was embarrassing?
For sure it's embarrassing.
Well, maybe they knew this Torah though. Like, wow, like he was about to get something so great,
For sure.
Like he comes back and people are like, okay, you're going to fly now,
Yeah, well, first of all, we don't have tzaraas nowadays. We don't have the reason why this seems so foreign and so is because we don't have it, which means that we don't deserve to have it.
Right.
But it manifests though. It manifests.
We have lots of amazing things. We deserve to have 𝗦𝗢𝗖𝗏. That's new, but we don't have nevuah yet, unless somebody wants to declare something on it.
They say that about tzaraas, that it's a level of nevuah.
That's what I'm saying. So it could be that we don't have tzaraas. That's true, but not just that's on a national level. There's also the possibility that even when there is tzaraas, not everybody gets tzaraas. Korach, right, had his whole story over there. We don't find anywhere that Korach had tzaraas. Miriam got tzaraas. Stands to reason that maybe Korach, uttered a word or two about Moshe Rabbeinu in the process of this whole thing. So tzaraas is a level, which is just like what Adam's saying. Like someone gets tzaraas, everybody, it's still embarrassing, right? Meaning if somebody wants to give you a present, you drop the ball. So...
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's a level of embarrassment. There's a level of feeling, rejected, even if the fact that you made it to round 3 or 4 of the hiring for whatever company you're trying to get it to, and at the end of the day, so the fact that you were even in it the first 3 rounds wow, you're pretty cool. That's amazing. You got up that high in the process, but you didn't get it at the end. But tzaraas seems to be this very high level that only someone who's deserving of getting this gift gets tzaraas.
Right, to see it as a gift. It's funny you mentioned Korach, because now I'm thinking about it in terms of what we're talking about. He, from what we know, didn't get any opportunities. I mean, he got the opportunity to be like, do you really want to do this? Are you sure? Let's do a dress rehearsal in anticipation of where you could really make this go south. Literally south. But there wasn't this process where it's like, let's give Korach, let's give him like something just to make sure he really gets it. But he didn't get that. He got like a harsh thing. I don't know. I don't know what any of that means. Maybe you get to a point maybe when a person does so much, it's like, no, you've gone way, way over the line, and you need something to counterbalance that. That's extreme. I don't know. Nadav and Avihu. They, boom, you're out. It's weird.
Right. It's just making me appreciate so much more how beautiful 𝗦𝗢𝗏 is.
Yeah.
It's such a matana from Hashem. I never really looked at it like that.
Me neither.
Like before this, it was just like, ooh, that's really embarrassing. Like, do tshuva and get back. But it's like such a chesed that Hashem would give it to you in that way. It's such a nice way of saying, like, come on, you can do this. Like, you're better than this.
There's treasures behind all of this horrible.
It would be so nice if Hashem would say that to us. Like, we have friends and mentors and maybe some people's parents and things like that or spouses that can be like, I think you could do a little better. It's great if people have that in your life who you respect and who you love, but like to hear that from Hashem is just
directly.
And then the Kohen to show you that it's coming from a place of love. There's a story that I'm thinking of so much that also 𝗦𝗢𝗏 said it, quoting 𝗦𝗢𝗏 a lot tonight, big 𝗦𝗍𝗏 in my life, I guess, where he said that, I don't know who said this or who's quoting from again, but he says that when the Kohen is blessing you in shul, there's an opinion that says that you shouldn't, for at least the Ashkenazim, you shouldn't make any hefsek in the middle of the bracha that the Kohen's saying, because you need to be yotzei the bracha also. So no, like bracha v'chshmo, don't make any noise, because you need to be saying amen to the bracha, because there's a mitzvah upon yourself to accept the love of the Kohen on yourself. Not just a mitzvah on him to bless you with love, but for you to accept that love,
to be part of the process.
Yeah, that you have to love yourself,
right?
And
it's amazing when you hear these things. It's amazing that we're even here. I'm overwhelmed by the undeservingness of being in Israel. How is this happening? And that some of us have the ability to know that there's nowhere else to be. Like you said before, it's like, this is the best that it could be. I'm in Israel. I'm doing my best to keep the Torah, to raise my family, to be in a community, to improve things, even when sometimes in the community it gets a little bit hard. But nonetheless, you got that drive to just be like, what's better than that? Apart from the whole redemption. And I don't even know what that looks like. Hiding under tables, I think, at that point. It'd be so overwhelming. Any more thoughts, Dovid'l?
I'm still wrapping my head around the whole. I feel like one of the big challenges, which again relates to the 𝗦𝗏𝗏 Rebbe's Torah and this entire way of looking at 𝗦𝗏𝗏 as a gift, and so part of the purification process is there's an offering of 2 birds. One of them, just super bizarre the way that it's presented in the Torah, one of them gets killed. That's and this is the challenge. So one of them gets killed as a korban. The other one is part of the purification process of the Metzora is you bring a bird out to a field and you let it go.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the whole challenge. The whole challenge is starting from the 𝗦𝗏𝗏 Rebbe's Torah of Metzora is an opportunity. 𝗦𝗏𝗏 is an opportunity. There is something there. And especially if you take this idea that 𝗦𝗏𝗏 means you were worthy of a gift. You must have done something to be worthy of the gift. Right? And you also did something that made the gift not appear in your inbox, meaning it didn't arrive.
Right.
It was sent, but it didn't arrive. It was sent, but it didn't arrive. So,
and it can.
And it can.
That's the point.
And it can.
And it can. You've got to.
But here's the thing. You have to figure out what's the part you have to kill and what's the part you have to let go and let it continue living and let it fly. And, you know, so you have to decide, and it's not always obvious. It's like, you're never sure. There's a decent, let's say it this way, which is maybe a little more provocative, but totally true. There's a decent chance that the part that you think is what made you worthy of the gift is actually the part that you got to let go of. Meaning you never know.
I would love an example. So awesome though.
No, a person could be like 𝗦𝗢𝗓𝗏, could be like really passionate about something. And it's like, you're just that passion, but you're sending it in the wrong direction. And there's another thing, which like,
that's what
you're not so passionate about. And you're positive that like the passion is a good thing.
Right.
And so you're positive that because the passion is a good thing, the direction that you're sending it in must be good also. Maybe not. Maybe it needs to be put in a different direction. That's just one example, but you could give a million examples that you think that this is why I deserve the gift, and or not. It could be you know what it is. I'm not, you know. But that's the trick. The trick is, what's the bird that you have to kill? And what's the bird that you let go to fly and to, you know, that's the tricky business right there. That's why people who make the mistake of thinking that like, you know, religion is like to make you more comfortable. Like that's one of the most uncomfortable things you could ever have to ask yourself. Like, what do I have to kill? Not who do I have to kill? What, that's for other religions. What part of myself do I have to like let go of and let it die, as it were? And what's the part that I let go of in the way that like I let it just flourish? And that's a hard thing to answer.
Rabbi 𝗦𝗢𝗏 once said to me, he said, David, he said, you're an Aleph. This was like early days of like religion. I'm like, I'm an Aleph. I'm like
Olive.
No, what did you hear?
No, I knew you said Aleph, but we were both thinking the same.
Oh, I thought you said Aleph. Wait, what did you say? The letter?
Aleph, the letter Aleph.
Oh, right. I thought 𝗦.
Unless I got it wrong all these years. And
he was asking if you were a 𝗦.
Yeah. No, he definitely said an Aleph. I'm like, I had no idea what he was talking about. But he said, I think it's like the equivalent of like an alpha male. He said, you have got to know, your life is going to be about holding onto the volume button and knowing when the right time to crank and to bring it all the way down. He said, because that's a challenge for you. Because there's always fire and there's always doing, but if you hold at 8, 9, 10, you're gonna burn yourself out. And the truth is, he's absolutely right, because I've, like you just said, and I thought of my own experience. If you can convince yourself the passion is the answer, that's the biggest danger. And when you haven't yet developed the ability just to bring it down instead of riding up there all the time, because that energy is like, I just must be doing the right thing because I'm doing. But sometimes the not doing is really where the work is, because then you actually provide more. The biggest mistakes I've made in life is, to use the American sports terms, because you two gentlemen are here, is when you crowd the plate. And I've done that for sure. And I've learned the lessons, because for me, I guess my 𝗪𝗓 is not feeling comfortable inside, even trying and attempting to do the right thing with all the passion and the drive. And I'm like, I'm not feeling good about this. And I think I've found that how you feel internally is Hashem saying, if this doesn't feel right, it's not right. But your intention is right. But figure out how to do this properly and better. I don't know. That's
beautiful.
I think
beautiful. I think you just said something really, really beautiful, that like, how can we see 𝗪𝗓 on ourselves in the modern day? You know, like we need that. We would benefit from it so much,
massively.
You know, but to be able to,
I think it's happening.
on an individual level, like to be able to be mindful and to have a feeling like just doesn't, like to take a moment and think about your day to day and your decisions that you're making and how you're living, and to think that like that doesn't feel right to me, and that's you seeing 𝗦𝗏𝗔𝗏 on yourself.
I think so.
I don't want to open a can of worms, but you're not allowed to see 𝗦𝗏𝗏 on yourself. Meaning it doesn't work.
Great, here he is.
It doesn't work.
Who invited you?
No, it doesn't work. No, but I think this we have to.
Not actual.
We have to dig there.
Not actual 𝗦𝗏𝗏𝗏.
No. And I'm saying, the way that you diagnose 𝗦𝗏𝗏𝗏, even if you're a Kohen. I said before, like if you go to a skin doctor and they're like,
right,
this is 𝗦𝗏𝗏𝗏.
If you're a Kohen, can you diagnose yourself?
You can't diagnose yourself even if you're a Kohen. You need a friend to help diagnose it.
Always need a friend.
Yeah, so.
Which is like it needs to be so gentle and with so much love.
Right. So it's not just, of course you have to be attuned to like, this doesn't feel right, or I know that I could do this better. If we want to go all the way with the muscle, so like you need, now you probably see like, what's that? And then you take it to your, meaning like it starts with a recognition and a mindfulness of, this doesn't feel right or look right, what's up? And then you take it to a friend and a friend helps you.
What if you're like, just like, hey, Cohen, what's up? And then he's like, oh boy, like he sees it on you, you don't bring it to him.
I don't remember what the din is, but these details are so important.
So important.
Because that's the anomaly of the whole thing.
Who discovers it?
All of these little things are so, when you're learning, like let's say you just opened up the halachos of 𝗦𝗏𝗏𝗏, right? In the Rambam, and you're looking at all these dinim. You're like, okay, that's random, that's random, that's random. There's a small detail here, a small detail. Like every detail, when you're looking at it through the lens of 𝗦𝗏𝗏𝗏, is Hashem wanted to give you a gift, and it was so big, but your reception ability was this small, so it just like didn't come out the right way. So you want to fix that problem. Every detail of the halachos and every detail of like, you have this conversation, and then you go and learn Parashat Metzora, and then it's like every detail you see through that lens starts to, and even the things that we don't know, so we have to go learn more. We have to go learn better. But that's the question. Like, can you declare somebody as being a Metzora if they didn't open themselves up to that to you? I don't know. It's a deep, whatever the answer to that is, a deep
yeah, either way. Right.
All right.
I just have one last thing to say that kind of ties in, that like Rabbi Shlomo says, that like the greatest light, all the Svarim say that the greatest light comes down Seder night. Like the greatest light. On my way over here, I was listening to Rabbi Shlomo, and he said that like the greatest light forever, like the potential for Mashiach coming and for it all comes down every year on Seder night.
Right.
Not just for the coming year, forever. Like just the most light in the entire world comes down. It's like, so we obviously know that we need, especially after this discussion, that you need a 𝗦𝗏𝗏𝗏, you need a vessel in order to capture that light. So like, what is the 𝗦𝗏𝗏𝗏 that can possibly capture so much light? And the answer is matzah. That's what it says.
Yeah, because there's three matzahs. The matzahs are Kohen, Levi, and Yisrael. Kohen, Levi, Yisrael. 𝗦𝗏𝗏𝗏. Kohen, Levi, Yisrael.
יפה מאוד, יפה מאוד.
Kohen, Levi, Yisrael.
Wow. Did you just think of that now?
No, that's a famous teacher. Meaning not the matzahs.
That's impressive, though.
Not the matzahs.
Hold on, that bird Torah though about killing one and letting it go.
That's the 𝗦𝗫𝗏𝗏𝗏 𝗦𝗏𝗧𝗏. He has a sefer called Apirion on Chumash. I should have said it as a name. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So matzah is the 𝗦𝗏𝗏𝗏.
Matzah is the 𝗦𝗏𝗏. In terms of humility, one of the aspects, like it's not just this flat piece of bread, like 𝗦𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 is not just 𝗦𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, it's the thing that's speaking to you about you. Is that what you take mostly from like that? Matzah, you said matzah, so what do you think?
Yeah, well, so I was learning with my son on Shabbos, and we were learning the famous Torah that matzah is called lechem oni, right? And there's two opinions. What is lechem oni? One of it, that's the poor man's bread. He's an ani, lechem oni. Another one is that it's the bread that we ask a lot of kashas on, Right? I'm thinking about ask a lot of kashas on. Is that what it goes?
Lechem oni, lechem
Lechem
she'onim
she'sh.
alav dvarim harbe. Bread that you say a lot of things over. You answer. Onim literally means to answer.
Exactly. So then I was thinking that lechem oni is like the bread that answers. We have so many questions on Seder night, and I had to tell Shmuel, you don't have to say a lot of answers. You have to ask a lot of questions to Zaidi, and then you'll get. And it's like a whole different. I have to answer the question. No, you have to ask a lot of questions. So what's the answer to all these questions? And the answer is matzah, lechem oni. It's the bread that answers. The only answer to all the questions you could possibly ask is lechem oni, which the Zohar says is lechem de menusa. It's the bread of faith. They're Seder night, beautiful. The only answer to all the questions from the beginning of time to the end of time is faith, which really wraps it around really nicely, this whole...
It's also called the bread of healing, right?
Is that the same thing?
That's what I'm saying. So it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Which is Torah.
Right? So you ask, what does the Metzora do? The Metzora goes out. He asks a ton of questions. What did I do right? What did I do wrong? How did I end up here? He asks a million questions. And the end, he doesn't really get an answer. The end of the Metzora is not like he gets a nevuah and then it disappears. Asking the questions is part of the healing process. And then faith that there is something, meaning already asking the questions, you start to get the answers in a way that's that's what you were talking about before. It's you need to ask the question, what do I need to let go of? What do I need to enhance? What do I need to, But at some point, just asking that question brings up all these different feelings. And in the end, the answer is there's a level of faith of because what are you going to do? You're going to ask all these questions. You're not going to get an answer per se, right? Again, you're not a prophet. Yeah, maybe you'll go to the Kohen Gadol and he'll tell you what to do, but you're not going to get a straight answer. I'm not getting a straight answer now about what exactly to do. I said before, so now there's 100 ballistic missiles coming. So what do you do? Right. You're going to look that up in Shulchan Aruch, what to do. One person, starts packing heat. Another person says Tehillim. Another person goes to sleep. A third, everybody has their, what do you go to? There's no right answer, but you need to ask the question, what is Hashem asking of me right now? Hashem is asking me to protect my family. Hashem is asking me to have faith and go to sleep. Hashem is asking me to pray. And, there's all the different answers, but the only thing that you need to do is ask the question, what does Hashem want from me right now? And that question is that's the beginning of faith, and that's the beginning of getting the answer. That's the beginning of healing.
Give up. And they said that if you're doing a Seder all by yourself,
still you have to questions.
You have to ask questions to yourself.
Because it's the question.
It's the question.
I've forgotten. My mind's gone blank. It's late. We say, oh my gosh. What do we say in the Seder about questions? Manishtana, which is, I think, isn't it linked also to the verb to change, l'shanot? Is there anything?
Nishtana. L'shanot.
No. Yes.
The Gamri.
Manishtana. What should we change?
What should we change? How are we changing?
And neshama.
How have we changed? Wow, how we changed.
Wow. We have changed so much.
Means all of them.
It means all of them.
Right.
But the way it seems like the way forward in life is always to how can I do better? That's the question. How can I do? And maybe that's the Metzora. He's off you go. Whether he goes with his 10 or whether it's embarrassing, all of the above, none of the above, I guess how he wants to interpret it. I don't know where he's holding, but he does have to go. And when you go and you're isolated, I mean, who didn't ask the question during COVID, what is going on? What's going on? What's going on? And the other night, what's going on? It's always a question, no? I once had one of my Rabbi, he said, confusion is so amazing. It's the best. What's better than confusion? The other way around. It's like in the secular world, you cannot be confused. You have to know exactly what you are, who you are. I'm left. I'm right. I'm woke. I'm anti-woke. I'm anti-Israel. I'm something. But actually, the best thing to be is like, I don't know. I'm trying to figure that out.
Yeah, so good. I mean, that's like the deep secret to the teacher's old minhag of saying there's no stupid questions.
Right.
You know, there's no stupid questions, because as long as you're asking, like, you're doing it. You're doing what you need to be doing. Because when you think you have all the answers, that's like, you're obviously in the wrong place.
The wicked son didn't have any questions, right?
I'm thinking about that also. What was his?
He deflected the whole thing.
What do you got?
What does the Russia say?
Doesn't he deflect?
Did he not ask a question? He says, no, 𝗦
So that's what I was going to say before, but now they're asking it in that way. It's the same idea. So
he says lachem.
I was going to say, when you're saying like there's no such thing as a stupid question, there's no such thing as a stupid sincere question. Like, as long as you're being sincere,
right?
So the Russia asks a question, but if you look, each of these psukim that are put in the mouth of the Chacham is because there's 4 places in the Chumash where it talks about your child asking a question or something. So, or what you should say to your child. So the difference between the Chacham and the Russia is not what they ask. They basically ask the same thing, which is something like 𝗦𝗢𝗖𝗜𝗔𝗟 𝗦𝗢𝗓. But one of the psukim says, 𝗦𝗢𝗓𝗗𝗏 when your son asks you, and the other one says 𝗦𝗢𝗓 when he says to you, and then he asks it as a question, but he's not really asking a question. He's saying, "What are you doing?" Which sounds like a question, but there's a "What are you doing?" which is like, "What are you doing? Explain this to me. I'm curious."
It's like nuance.
And then like there's another one which is like, "What are you doing? Like, why are you doing that?" But I'm not asking. I'm like telling you, like, what you're doing doesn't make sense. So there's a difference between, like, every question is great. Like, if it's sincere, then it's a real question. Otherwise, it's not really a question.
Didn't Esav do that? He was like being all frum and like, look at me, daddy. But none of it. Korach, similar, right? He wasn't really asking questions about 𝗦𝗓𝗏.
Yeah, and that's why it's like 𝗦𝗓𝗏𝗁𝗏, like you are like to knock him in the mouth, is because
he's not saying anything.
Yeah, you're pretending like you're not really asking a question.
That's
like you're using your mouth to ask a question that's not really a question. Like, use your mouth to ask a question. Ask a good question. Ask a real question more.
A sincere question. And then Korach gets eaten by the earth's mouth. Like, direct correlation. He was not interested one bit in discovery. He just wanted it was a power play. We see every time in life, whether it's in our personal lives, family lives, relationships, but I think like the sharp end of it, you see it a lot in community. When there's power plays, got to be careful because it never works out well. Right? As we've been, whatever, but have to be careful with these things because it's a shared experience at the end of the day. How you figure out the best way to have that shared experience, I think, is the delicate kind of, but you've got to be open to it because otherwise it's like you're just being Korach. It's like, listen, I'm running this, Yeah. Wow. Gone 10:30. Enjoyed it?
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah?
It was great.
You were not...
First time?
Yeah, it's first time. You loved it, no?
It was fun.
It was chill.
It's fun talking to friends, yeah, for sure.
Exactly. What better way to spend a, Monday night? Last question, I guess. Then we can wrap up. Dovid'l, where do you think... I'm going to ask something a bit different. With all the things that we've said, I'm going to totally put you on the spot.
Do it.
Tie all of this in to the mistake that Adam HaRishon made in Gan Eden. If it comes back to what Adam was saying about at the end of it, it's an emunah.
Yeah.
So where the whole mistake, like I said before, the whole mistake started with Adam Arishon. We are the manifestation, all of us, of him. So how do we? What would you say to Adam Arishon after we've had this discussion?
That's a very good question. So two things. First of all, when you say the mistake, there's like a few mistakes.
Right.
Right. So it's not clear what's the first mistake. Let's like sidestep that for a second. I guess the first thing that comes to mind, because there's a few ways to address it, is there's a tradition that Adam and Chava were instructed not to eat from the tree. Right, from a very specific tree, from the tree of good and evil, from the 𝗦𝗢𝗏 𝗦𝗔. But there's a tradition that if they would have waited until Friday night, then they could have, as a debate about what the fruit of that tree was. According to one opinion, it is grapes. Doesn't really matter. They could have, you don't have to make kiddush on wine. You can make kiddush on bread. So there's another opinion that it was a grain. It was a grain tree, which is wild. Whatever that exactly how you explain this nuance. If they would have waited till Friday night, they would have made kiddush on the tree, squeezed the grapes into grape juice, made it into bread, and made a motzi on it. Make a 𝗦𝗢𝗔𝗟 exactly how they would do it. But they would make a kiddush on it, and they would have received that gift. So in light of everything that we're saying, there is a level, part of the Metzora being told to go on his own there's a lot of. If I had to like summarize one word that the Metzora needs, like if let's play the game, you're Aaron a Cohen and you're like sending off a Metzora, or you're a friend and someone comes to you and says, I think I have tsaras, You're not diagnosing exactly, halachically, but so the greatest advice is like patience, like you have 7 days, like you need patience. If Adam would have realized this, don't eat from this tree, this commandment not to eat from the tree, is a really big gift that Hashem wants to give you. Right. Like even in the tree itself, there's a big gift. And like, if you're just a little patient, then you can get it. Sometimes, it could be, I don't know, it could be that the reason that a person gets tsaras is Hashem wanted to send a really great gift. And the fact that you got it as tsaras, like we've been saying the whole time, is that you didn't have the proper kli. Maybe the kli was like waiting a little bit, like being a little more patient to receive, instead of taking it, like holding out your hands and receiving it.
Cool your boots.
Just like instead of Hashem wants to give you a gift and you're excited and you see it coming and you're like, take it, right? Instead, just like stand there like this and wait to receive it.
Right, wait to receive it.
And so if Adam, again, we're all part of that. I'm not blaming Adam.
No.
This idea that Adam was an 𝗦𝗢𝗏 𝗦𝗔𝗏, so we were all there. We all did so the advice that I was given to my part of Adam Rishon that was saying there is like, just hold out your hand like this and just wait. Whatever the gift is, it'll come to you. Don't grab it.
Very nice. You like that, Adam? Seeing as it's
beautiful. Yefé מאוד.
Most of the time, I don't know if you've experienced this as well, certainly in music, but also in sports, this idea of timing. Timing is an amazing thing. I was a very accomplished cricketer in my youth, and I was en route to being a professional. Actually.
Wow!
It was a major thing. And
what's cricket?
Cricket is like the
flat bat thing.
Yeah, it's like baseball, but
with a flat bat,
but
like
with a bunch of English people.
And
only the English could have created cricket. Let's just be honest about that.
Is there tackling also?
No tackling, no. Hard ball. You hit it. It's like home runs, but not.
They throw it to you? They throw it up?
They throw it, they bowl it. It's slightly different. I'll explain it after the show. But
ballistic missiles and cricket, you gotta explain, give us like a
no, I'm not a bockie on ballistic missile. But I do remember, because again, like I am in life, I was an aggressive batsman. How I played was aggressive. And it was a blessing. I scored a lot of what was called runs, like equivalent of I scored big scores, and then sometimes I'd get very little, right? And it would bother me. But I never forget, especially when you're holding an object that has to connect to another object that's moving, the more you try to really hit it, the worse it is. It's like anything in life. Timing is where you don't even feel bat on ball. And it's happened. And it goes flying. And you're like, you used your muscle memory. You've done it a million times when you've done your training and all the rest of it. But the amazing thing is when you take your foot off the gas and you just trust the process of what you know your body can do, and you use your eye and hand-eye coordination and basically don't get in the way and just let it happen. You connect and you don't even feel it. I'm sure the greatest sportsmen, they have this also. I mean, I just look at people like Michael Jordan, like how did he so often hit that shot? Like he spoke about it in The Last Dance, the documentary. It's bizarre because in the moment he was just very chilled. And yet it's in the most high pressured moment. You know, the last shot of his entire career, basically, for the Bulls, he hits the winning shot. But it didn't just happen once. And I feel like it's part of this message. Sometimes I think humans try way too hard. Whereas actually, if they just step back a bit and just had faith in themselves, and maybe it's what Adam could have done, and it's what we should all do. To finish off with an Adam. You 𝗪 to that? You hear what I'm saying a bit?
Legamre, and I really think tying it back into my kavana for 𝗦𝗢𝗵𝗴 𝗙𝗚 𝗦𝗵 Hashem is
that's nice.
Like eating the matzah in that posture is exactly that. It's just letting go and letting the blessings come. And that is the night of Seder. And that's why that is the vessel. Because you're eating the matzah and just melting into Hashem's arms. That's it. That's how you can receive the light, the greatest light of the entire year.